Hi Year 8, it's Mrs. Reed here and welcome to Lesson 3 of your remote learning. I want to say a big thank you for all of the wonderful work that you have sent our way so far. We've been really impressed with your independence and with the quality of the work that you've been uploading to Show My Homework. So thank you for all your effort. We have one more week of remote learning before we'll be back face to face in college and getting to see you all in our lessons, which I can say that everybody in English is really looking forward to. Let's make sure that we're ready to start the lesson first, please. So we are now on Monday the 13th and this is lesson 3. You're going to need to make sure that you have a pen or pencil, something to write with, that you have some paper or a notepad to write on, and if you want to, you can type your answers as well. And you need to allow around 45 minutes to complete the lesson. I'd recommend making sure phones are away and that you are distraction free before you begin. Okay, so let's start with a retrieval task, and these are going to get you to reflect on the learning from last week. I'd like you to write the numbers 1 to 4 in the margin and answer each question. These can be short answers and do not need to be full sentences. Pause the video, complete your questions, and then we'll mark together in a few minutes. Right, let's go through and check those answers. You might want to make sure you've got a different coloured pen to hand so that you can self-mark. Number 1, why were Dalmatians once known as carriage dogs? Well, the answer to that is that we learned that in the 19th century that they used to be used to run along stagecoaches to protect the horses because they were thought to have a calming effect on them. I thought that was a nice bit of history. And in our reading last week, we saw in one text, we were told about the bond, weren't we, between a particular dog and a horse, and they were very loyal to and protective of one another. Okay, number 2. So we want 4 words that could be used to compare the differences between texts. You might have chosen words such as however, although, alternatively, on the other hand. There are more than that, okay, but you were looking for 4 words that would indicate a difference between texts. Number 3, which word means a scene of chaos and confusion? Well done if you remembered that the word was bedlam. Number 4, what does it mean to juxtapose things? Last week we looked at the idea that when we juxtapose things, we place them side by side in order to highlight the difference between them. So go through and mark your answers. Give yourself a mark out of 4. So today's text. It is another non-fiction text, and it is a Guardian newspaper article from 2012. The text today is called Why Japan Prefers Pets to Parenthood, and it is an opinion article that looks at the popularity of dogs, particularly small breeds of dogs, in Japan. The whole text is attached to Show My Homework as a PDF, so if you would like to pause the video here and read the text in full first, you can. We will be looking at small chunks of text throughout the lesson, but it's useful to know that the text is there if you want to refer back to it. Okay, let's have a look. So when we're reading our text today, we're going to be looking at this as an opinion piece, a piece that clearly expresses the writer's opinion and then uses facts and details to support what they think. Throughout this lesson, I'm also going to be asking you for your opinion. So some of your sentences will be about saying, well, now I've read this, what do I think about the way that dogs are treated in Japanese society. I'm going to read the first 3 paragraphs. Make sure that you're listening or reading along with me, because I'm going to be asking for your opinion at the end. In a smart and expensive neighbourhood of Tokyo, Toshiko Horikoshi relaxes by playing her grand piano. She is a successful eye surgeon with a private clinic, a stylish apartment, a Porsche and 2 pet pooches. Tinkerbell, a chihuahua, and Ginger, a poodle. Japanese dog owners think a dog is like a child, says Horikoshi. I have no children, so I really love my 2 dogs. Many Japanese women like Horikoshi prefer pets to parenthood. Startlingly, in a country panicking over its plummeting birth rate, there are now many more pets than children. While the birth rate has been falling dramatically and the average age of Japan's population has been steadily climbing, Japan has become a pet superpower. Official estimates put the pet population at 22 million or more, but there are only 16.6 million children under 15. Tinkerbell and Ginger have their own room and a wonderful wardrobe full of designer clothes. They have jumpers, dresses, coats and fancy dress outfits, neatly hung on jewelled hangers, hats, sunglasses and even tiny shoes. Horikoshi says she shops for her dogs most weekends and they get new clothes each season. Okay, so I would like you to write down now, in a full sentence, your opinion, having read how dogs are treated in Japan, particularly by our lady here, the successful eye surgeon, Toshiko Horikoshi. How does she treat her dogs? And what's your view of that? Okay, so I think, and tell me what you think about the way that Tinkerbell and Ginger are treated. So pause the video and write down what you think now. Okay, so I was thinking as I read this, I thought, 1, I find it really fascinating, but 2, it seems really surprising to me that these dogs are treated so well, that they have so many clothes, and they seem to live a very luxury lifestyle, and I find that quite amusing. It feels different to me and the way that I would treat my dog. So I'm interested in hearing what you thought too. So what we're going to see in this text is that the writer is choosing words very carefully that convey their point of view. And sometimes this might be very clear, and other times it's a little bit more implicit. If you remember, we looked at that word last week. We said when something was implicit, it was implied, and we had to be very good as a reader and start to look at what is being hinted at and piecing kind of lots of bits together to find the evidence. So I would like to know, looking at the 3 quotations on the screen, which words really help to convey the writer's opinion. So we're going to write number 1 in the margin, and then next to it we're going to look for any words in that piece of text that might convey what the writer thinks about this situation. So we might look for adjectives and adverbs, things that might convey an opinion. So I'm going to give you an example here. First of all, if I look at sentence 1, it says, in a smart and expensive neighbourhood, Toshiko relaxes by playing her grand piano. And if I look, first of all, the word expensive straight away stands out to me as a word that does convey opinion. We know that this is really quite a grand place, something that maybe is very luxurious, and we can tell that by the fact that it's an expensive neighbourhood and someone is playing the piano. So I'm going to look through that sentence and see, can I identify any more words that might show what the writer thinks about this person and where they live. Once I've done that, I'm going to do the same for number 2. 2 in the margin. I'm I'm going to look for words that might suggest opinion. And again for 3, do the same. And you can just list the words for a moment. Pause the video and have a go. Right, so let's have a little look back through this. So I said a moment ago that the word expensive, okay, might convey the writer's opinion. I also think successful is a good choice because that's showing that perhaps there is a reason why this person, as a successful eye surgeon, can live in this kind of neighbourhood and apartment, okay, because they've been successful. Maybe they are quite wealthy and therefore can live in this area. With that should say private, a private clinic and a stylish apartment. Again, there's an opinion conveyed through that. The writer seems to be almost in a bit of awe about the place in which Toshiko lives. Okay, and we can see that as well, that they've got the piano and the Porsche as well as the dogs, the pooches. So what I'm going to do to my notes here now is I'm going to just say what I think the writer conveys. So I want to draw a little arrow, or you can do this as a list underneath. If you've picked out some words, what does it convey about the writer's opinion? So in this case, the fact that it's expensive and stylish and successful tells me that the writer seems to be impressed by the job and the lifestyle that Toshiko leads. So I'm just making a note there of what I can see going on. You might want to do the same for 2 and 3 before we feed back. So just pause the video and make sure you add a note to each one. If I've put down a word, why have I picked this? What does it tell me that the writer thinks? Okay, so let's look at number 2. Many Japanese women, like Horikoshi, prefer pets to parenthood. Startlingly, in a country panicking over its plummeting birth rate, there are now more pets than children. Okay, so the writer makes quite a big statement in the first sentence. In fact, we may say that it is somewhat of a generalization. We don't know it to be true, but it's presented as fact that women prefer pets to parenthood. What we can tell from the writer's opinion, though, is through these words. They say startlingly. Well, what's another word here? A synonym for startlingly might be shockingly, surprisingly. So it tells me that the writer is shocked by this statistic. And they also say that this is shocking because the country, Japan, appears to be panicking over its plummeting birth rate. So plummeting means something that is falling. A plummeting birth rate means that the number of children being born each year is in decline. So if that continued over time, the population would decrease and get smaller. So I'm going to say here that the words panicking and startling and as well as plummeting all suggest that the writer is shocked and surprised by the way that Japanese society has been changing. So shocked and surprised. And we'll look at number 3 and do the same. Japan has arguably is a good word here because it shows us that this isn't factual. Okay, the writer is suggesting that it could arguably, looking at the facts that this person has got, mean that these are the most pampered pooches. And if they're really pampered, well, that's going to mean that they are treated like humans, looked after and cared for.